Historically black colleges and universities have been in the news lately. Princeton football coach says he wants to play an HBCU in a bowl game. Winston-Salem Journal just reported about how well HBCU interns did on Capitol Hill. Government Accounting Office did a study on development at HBCUs, and hardly a surprise, but CIAA football coaches and reporters voted Bowie State as being the logical winner for this season. I'm Jonathan Yates with the Culture of Sports, and we are at Bowie State today to talk to the athletic director, Clyde Doughty, about that and other things having to do with his job in the university. Mr. Doughty, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Good to see you again, Jonathan.
So what did you think about the Princeton University football coach coming out and saying, he thinks the Ivy League should start playing HBCUs in bowl games?
I think it's very interesting. I think that the opportunity to showcase HBCUs on the same level that others are playing at is a very long time overdue concept. I think that, I don't want to say we're a hidden treasure, but we play a good quality football. If you look historically at all the pros and people that have come out of HBCUs, to have an opportunity to play in these type of bowl games open up another area for everybody to see the talent, not only on the field but off the field at these HBCUs. So I think that it's a wonderful idea.
So Bowie State Bulldogs play the Yale Bulldogs. Who would you take in that game?
Oh, the Bulldogs from Bowie State.
Let me tell you, I think I might agree with you there. Two reasons. Number one, sort of the opposite of what you think. I think the skill positions would match up well.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in grad school at Harvard, I coached. I was a volunteer assistant with the lacrosse team. They get a lot of talent, but they don't develop it. So I think the HBCU linemen would dominate in the pit. What would your analysis be?
Well, I think that, you look at the game is won or lost in the lines. And sometimes when we're going up to play Wagner, our coach said that's going to be a tough one for us because they're big. They might be a little bigger than us. They're not more athletic than us. Mm-hmm. They might be a little big because they're giving out those kind of resources to attract these bigger guys. So our guys might not match up to them pound for pound, but athletically we'll be right there with them. And that has been seen when we played Central Connecticut a couple of times in the past since I've been here, and we held our own every time we was there. But in the line, it was tough in the trenches.
So let me ask you another question about sort of speaking about your recruiting. There's an article in the Winston-Salem Journal that just said about how many interns from the HBCU just had a tremendous time working on Capitol Hill this summer. Being so close to Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill, the White House, and everything else, do you find that to be a huge asset here recruiting at Bowie State?
Absolutely. I think that ability to be close to an infrastructure, the business, the government, all the different type of agencies that exist in the Washington, D.C. area is very attractive for the people that live here because it's a gateway and we have relationships with them. Also to attract people to come to the area. We are working here, President Bro is working feverishly to increase our residential life abilities. Right now we have waiting lists and folks want to come to the Maryland area to attend BSU just for those reasons that you just mentioned. So it's a wonderful ability that a lot of places don't have and that we are taking advantage of.
Now, in terms of recruiting, last week I interviewed the athletic directors from University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Virginia Commonwealth University, and George Mason University, and we talked about how being in the Richmond to Baltimore corridor is the richest springbred of high school talent in the country. And truth be known, I only threw in Richmond because of VCU and George Mason. The Baltimore to Washington corridor is without question. How does Bowie State play in those big leagues like that?
Well, what we try to do is keep local talent here local. And everybody's looking for the dollar, Jonathan. So we have to compete against that. Our scholarship funding is not as great as we would like it to be. We're working on that from a lot of different angles, private donations, greater reallocation of budgets. So I think a lot of folks that are in this corridor that become attractive want to get out of the corridor because they've been here all their lives. But we are trying to keep them here, and also too, we have an opportunity when they go away, they see that it's nicer where they left.
I was about to bring that up.
So they come back home, and then we were there waiting for them. We're waiting there with open arms for them.
Because I'm very biased. I grew up in the Baltimore, Washington, Annapolis triangle. My mother graduated from Bowie State. I went to Bowie State for a year. Where are you going to find a nicer experience for 4 years and to live?
You can't. I mean, I'm original. I'm from New York, and I've been down here for 4 years, and I fell in love with the place. I think it's just a wonderful opportunity, great people down here, an ability to earn a good living, and live well in this area. So this is just a prime area to be in.
Now, when you came down from New York, you were very successful in your lacrosse programs where you were running up there. I mean, when you came to Maryland and saw what real lacrosse was that sort of like a revelation for you?
Well, we used to beat up on the real lacrosse people from New York. So most of our student athletes were from the area down here who wanted to go to New York. For the same reason that you just talked about D.C.,
yeah.
They wanted to come in New York and experience that up in the New York area, the business, the politics, all that. Everything's in New York. The fashion, the eateries, so it was very entertaining to them. So we were able to get a lot of folks from this Maryland area and from the Canada area who play lacrosse on a big scale. So that's how we were able to build our teams. And then when we started rolling, people kind of emulated what we were doing. And we had, as a private institution, we had a lot of scholarship dollars, so we were able to make it affordable for those student athletes to be in New York, which is a very,
that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Now, your career as an athletic director has been marked by a high level of success in both recruiting and development. So how do you do development so well? There was a GAO report that came out last week that said, a lot of the HBCUs are just focused on one or two areas and they need to do it so well. You've done so well development across the board. What's your secret without giving out, trade stuff?
There is no real secret to it, Jonathan. I'm learning, listening, and getting out and focusing on what the needs are, and working my coaching staff. Each coach knows their demographics within their programs. So I listen to them, and that's the biggest thing, to listen to them. The alumni, you got your older alumni, and you got your younger alumni, and how do you match them, and how do you get them to return to campus and be part of the university? So we try to accommodate them on each need. You just can't put them all in one box and want them to exist in that box. There's got to be different boxes, but when you take all those boxes, you put them in the same store, and they do exist at that point in time. So it's just getting out, Jonathan, listening to folks, understanding what the needs are of each individual program. The softball program is so different than the track and field program. Track and field is different than basketball different than football, but they're all sports, but they have different needs. So I listen to those needs and I try to accommodate those needs, and then I try to get people to buy in to us. People talk about branding all the time, making your brand, sell your brand. I don't believe in branding myself. I believe in improving and enhancing my image. When I do that, people brand you. Nike started out with a swish, and they added to that and added to that, and all of a sudden people say, that's a good product, because not because of the swish, but they did with the product. So our product has to be good from an academic and social perspective, and once you get those two things in place, athletics will fall in place. When
you talk about branding and stuff, that brings up the natural question, Bow Tie Tuesday. Yes. Did you bring that here, or was this here before you got here?
No, I brought it here, and we started here. A gentleman by the name of Thomas Johnson, who worked for me at the time, said, he came in one day and said, let's start this called Bow Tie Tuesday and see if we can kick it off. And he's not here no longer, but I still keep it going. So he and I thought of it, and we feel it's a tradition now, Bow Tie Tuesday at BSU.
So has it created sort of an esprit de corps here at BSU?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
So in terms, let's go back to recruiting now. It amazes me, former lacrosse player, that you can convince a Canadian kid to say, go past Syracuse, go past Albany, just come here and play ball at New York Tech. How did you do that?
Well, there's so many individuals playing lacrosse. Everybody can't play for Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be other places where you can go. And I think the addition of the NCAA putting the lacrosse championship in the Jamboree, where 1, 2, and 3 play in these big stadiums,
yes,
that really helped Division II a big time. Because it was always about Division I lacrosse and Division III lacrosse. Division II was like this little, a stepchild on the outside, but now we're part of the family more so right now. That has helped Division II lacrosse, and people seeing that quality athletes are now going to these division schools to play lacrosse, just like the other sports. That media attention really helps Division II athletics, and the Division II leadership from the NCAA is doing a great job of increasing our championships and getting the visibility that we need. So folks say this is a viable place to go to school.
So did you ever think you'd see lacrosse spread so much to where the University of Utah just started a program, and Denver won the championship a couple years ago?
Yes, I did, because truth be told, most of those Division I schools are playing lacrosse already, but they play it on a club level because with gender equity rules, they just don't play under the NCAA.
Well, not to mention Denver hired Tierney, probably the best coach in history.
In history.
That always helps.
They're working out those gender numbers, and yes, I'm not surprised at all. It's a great sport. I mean, for those folks who don't want to get around and get totally beat up at football, you're running, it's athletic, your agility. It's a great sport.
Well, I was just telling a friend of mine, we were talking about Denver lacrosse, snowboarding year-round, and legalized marijuana. How do you beat that in recruiting lacrosse players?
Well, there's some factors there to help you.
So one thing, when I was researching your program, it saw that the average athletic award for female athletes is higher than for male athletes here at Bowie State.
Yeah, we try to enhance that and balance out the numbers. There's more males than females, so we try to balance out by giving out scholarship dollars to attract them, and we're going to do even more for women. I'm really on a mission to increase the visibility of our women's program, especially our softball program. Our track and field coach, Michelle Latimer, does a great job with the women's track and field program along with the men's program. But, you know, our volleyball program, our softball program, we're trying to really enhance them. Our bowling program.
I was about to ask that. You just don't read that much about that.
Yeah, we're trying to get them more increased visibility and promotion because they've won the CIAA 4 years in a row, 8 years all told, and they went into the NCAAs for the first time this year. So we've increased their scholarship pool. We're trying to get some better bowlers up front that to complement the back bowlers that we have in 4 and 5 and 1, 2, and 3 can be strong because our plan is to win the CIAA again, get into the NCAA, and move further into that tournament.
So, you know, you're coming from New York City. I'm coming from outside Annapolis. Last time I was here talking to the students, it blew me away, the diversity in the sports and stuff they loved about it. You know, I'm talking to these kids who just love NASCAR and other stuff like that. Did you have the same experience when you came here, that you're just stunned by the diversity in sports love here?
Absolutely, because, you know, look at the markets that you're on. You're around Annapolis, you're around Baltimore, you're around Washington. So you're exposed to a lot of different things, and these young men and women are very aware of their surroundings, and so they get exposed to a lot of things that normally other students wouldn't get in certain demographic areas. So yeah, they are very aware, and they're very keen, and they're very knowledgeable, and that makes you continue to be in tune with them because they are already in tune. So it's a win-win situation when you look at it from that perspective.
So when you talk about a lot of wins, Bowie State football immediately comes to mind. The poll of the coaches and the other picks you guys to win the CIA again this year. Now, in one interview I did with another athletic director, and you know, Brad Edwards from George Mason last week, he agreed, even though they don't have football, is that, you know, football helps to set the tone for a lot. I mean, when you can start off the year running off 5 or 6 wins in a row, it just makes it for a great academic year. Has that been the case here at Bowie State?
Absolutely. At my other school, New York Institute of Technology, we did not have football. I had football when I was a student athlete there. We dropped it in '82, I believe, and it left a void because on Saturday afternoon, the whole campus came together. No one has classes at that time. Everybody rallied around the football program. Win or lose, people rally around football. It's good when you're winning, and we've had the last couple of years, we've had some good football programs, some good success.
You're being very modest, you're very humble.
Our quarterback is back, and we are a high offense program. So yes, it sets the tone for the campus. Everybody's excited about it. It starts just when school starts. So it's new. The freshmen are excited. They want to come down and they want to be in the stadium to watch football, participate, to play. So it sets the tone for the campus.
So what's game day like here at Bowie State for football?
Very excited because, you know, we have our GGs coached by Thomasina Broadley, our cheerleading team, and Dr. Wright does a great job with the band. So you get that pop and circumstances going and the lively music, and everybody's excited. You get out here on game day. It's a great, you know, the weather down here is really good during that part of the early part of the year. So people are excited. They come out. They want to see each other. It's like every day is a homecoming day for football. And then when you have homecoming, that brings just everybody back on campus for that one event. It's a week-long celebration of the history of Bowie State University. And, you know, we culminate that with a football game. So we start that Sunday and we go all the way through that Saturday. So football is a really unique entity in itself, more so than any other sport. You only play once a week. You know, it's not like basketball or football or volleyball, 2 or 3 games, or I'll miss a game, I'll come back here. That 1 week, you got to be in the house or you're traveling with that game. And there's only, what, 10 games, 11 games a season. So it's really compact, and so people really enjoy it. That's why people are fiending for the NFL football to come back right now, you know.
So the history of Bowie State just opened a new chapter with the recent graduate of its first hip-hop major. What can you tell us about that in the music technology program?
Well, it's very interesting, you know, and being a person that went to school with Russell Simmons and looking at hip-hop, I was talking to someone yesterday about it, how we never thought that no one's going to be interested in no hip-hop. It was an urban concept, and we used to take our speakers out and hook it up to a light pole, and somebody would grab a mic and just start talking. I said, no one's going to be interested in that stuff.
That's New Yorkers talking. Down here in D.C., we had go-go, and we knew better.
Oh, okay, so up in New York, that's what was the theme or the concept. But hey, lo and behold, they take it to another level. So now this is a whole new phenomenon. This hip-hop, a lot of it I don't understand too much as I used to, but that's another story. But it's really interesting how these students gravitate to that music, want to be involved in that music, the lyrics behind them, their meaning, their passion. So it's really a creative ability, have creative ability to put these things together, and that's major is really is taking off. We had our first graduate, and others are now involved with that.
You know, you now have college athletes who will pick where they go to school and who they have the shoot contract. Could you see them one day picking on what songs they play at games and things like that?
Well, we have to be very careful about the songs they pick, because some of the language that these young folks want to listen to, and they don't really hear it themselves.
Now, Luther Campbell is coaching high school football down in Florida now. So
We can't play too. Yeah, he cleaned up his act. Yeah, but hopefully he cleaned up some of them songs that he played once before. But we try to get in, use the clean versions of these songs, and they look at them, and they really get into it, and they're listening to the music while they play. But if you also listen, everybody's coming out with their own headphones and headsets on right now, so everybody's into their own worlds also too. So the music has a big impact on the sports environment.
Now, so in terms of a big impact, about 2 months from now, LeBron James is coming out with a movie about college sports. Haven't seen it yet, but I know it's going to come out saying two things: the athletes are treated very poorly, and the athletes should be paid. What would happen to college sports here at Bowie State if you had to pay the athletes?
It wouldn't exist. And I don't think it exists on the Division I level. There's only so many teams that make money. I think it's 5% on the Division I level, and the Power 5 are probably the only ones that make money. The rest of the schools are losing money on football or athletics per se. And then you have to decide who gets paid, who doesn't get paid. Does the last guy on the bench get paid? Does the swimmer get paid? How do you now determine who gets paid? So I think it's a bad scenario. I don't think coaches should make $5 million. I think that a school that's making that kind of money, all that money should go back into the institution for scholarships. No students should come out of that school with any loans. That money, if generated by the school, for the school, should go back into the institution and enhance the infrastructure. And there should be some revenue sharing some kind of way, that these schools are just not walking away with billions and billions of dollars. Like I said, I don't think anybody that's earning that kind of money should not put the money back into the infrastructure of education, because that's what the foundation is, where they can now help young men and women come to school without walking out the door. We talk about the rising cost of education and the number of loans that these young men and women are coming out who can't afford now to even start their life off in a very positive way, because they're so far in the negative. Well, they shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't pay a coach $5 million to coach a football team, and that's all he does. He's making more than the president. So to me, there's other ways that they could allocate those funds to help the institution, help the students who support them.
Now, no one has a better background in college sports than you do. You were a Hall of Fame basketball player in college. You've worked in college sports administration your whole life, taking it to the top here at the chair of Bowie State University. Do you feel sort of the same way that Ed McLaughlin from VCU said when I interviewed him, that, you know, with all due respect, what does LeBron James know about college sports?
Well, that, you know, he didn't play college sports, but he's a basketball player. He's smart enough to look and see and understand what goes on about them. I would not deny his ability to understand something, but yes, he didn't play college sports because he was gifted enough to go to the next level, and he didn't have to play it, and which I think is another factor, that we shouldn't force people to go to college that don't want to go to college, and who come and use this as a stepping stone to the pros. That should be another conversation that we look at. But he's well enough to know that he talks to these people and understands what's going on within that environment, you know, and he sees what's going on. He sees the news and he talks to folks, and so I don't think it's beyond his educational perspective to understand what's happening within that Division I environment.
Now, Ed McLaughlin at VCU, he also pointed out in the interview that they spend over $400,000 a year per basketball player. You know, you had a great experience playing in college, Hall of Fame career at New York Institute of Technology, but do you ever sit here and look and say, wow, it just amazes me how much better athletes are treated now than when I played?
Well, that's the competition factor. That's the money factor. The money when we were coming along, even on the Division I level, when you and I were talking earlier, how much the pros were making at that time was very little money, and sometimes people, they want to become pro athletes because they made more money outside of being a professional athlete than being a professional athlete. That times have changed. So, you know, we looked at the shift, Jonathan, and we weren't in a position that kind of money was there. You know, I hate to use this cliche, for the love of the game. When we played for the love of the game, I never thought about money. I just was so excited to play college sports that I was just going to do whatever I had to do to play. I never thought about making money. I got a pair of shorts or sneakers. You know, now it's totally different. The complexes that these guys play in, the locker rooms that they're in, it's just, the money has just become off the chart, so to speak. So now the competition level is that much higher. It's about how I am going to not pay for this young man, but how I'm going to, or woman, how I'm going to accommodate them during my stay. Is it going to be better at Clemson than Wake Forest? So it's really interesting to see how they take this money, and now how the mindset of the parents, the student athletes are towards where they're going to play and what amenities that they're going to have during their 4 years in college.
Now, you know, Mr. McLaughlin, he also said that he felt that his background, having always worked at smaller schools, has made him a better athletic director because he always did everything hands-on. He had to drive the Zamboni for the hockey games. He had to be at the refreshment stadium. Do you feel the same way sort of about your career?
I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that.
What are some of the menial tasks you remember that you're glad you left behind?
I don't think that I'm glad I left anything behind, because I still would do the same things here, because I don't want anybody to do something that I'm not capable of doing. I picked up the mop, I swept the floor, you know, I cleaned up after games and put the chairs away. And at times after our games, I'll go in and I'll help the staff out also too when I have the availability. So it's all for one, and I don't think that I'm no better than anybody on my staff. And when I can get out there and help them and show that I'm part of the process, it makes them work that even harder and endear them to Bowie State University. So I'm not, you know, I don't regret anything that I've done, and I still will do those things. The thing that is time. You know, we get back a lot of things in our life. We get a new car, new shoes, new suit. You can't get time back. So my time is different, spent differently now. I have to be entertaining folks because I'm trying to raise money to help the program. So sometimes I don't have the time to get out there to do the things that I would like to do. Tell you the truth, I'd rather drive the Zamboni and do a lot of those things than stuff that I do now. But that's just part of the job and the environment.
So, you know, one thing with your Hall of Fame career, you know, when do you work with the students here to sort of let them know, you know, you're not making the NBA, you're not making the NFL, I know what I'm talking about. You're here at Bowie State University, you're getting a great education, it's time for you to take advantage of that fact.
Well, that's interesting, John, because the women understand that I'm getting here, I'm playing, I'm subsidizing my education, I'm playing for 4 years and I'm getting out of here and I'm getting a job. Every guy thinks they're going to the pros. You know, I don't care how bad they are, there's the next level, I'm playing somewhere the next level.
Well, that's what they said last week, even the walk-ons thought they were going to make it to the NBA.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's amazing the mindset, the two different mindsets between the testosterone.
Quit showing Rudy every
Yeah, absolutely, that's absolutely. So during the orientation process, we try to our best to get them to understand that your time is limited here. I say to them, you got 4 years of college eligibility, but you got 40 years of working someplace else. What's the bigger picture? Of course, the 40 years of working. So you have to apply yourself to get ready for 40 years of working. And that's where you're going to spend the majority of your life until it's time for you to retire. So we try to reinforce that as much as possible, Jonathan. During the year with speakers, we're bringing in speakers to talk to our student athletes. where we try to attack them on different freshmen and sophomore. We don't try to loop them all together because each of them have a different mindset. The seniors are so far different than the freshmen. So we look at each of them in different perspectives and try to encourage them to focus in on what they're doing at the time, because you got to be in the now. And now is the moment that never ends. So when you're in the now, you understand how you got here and where you're going. So we try to get them to focus in on the now. What are you doing now as a freshman? What are you doing now as a sophomore, junior, and senior? So if we get them to understand that, they'll be able to move forward and enjoy their college career, but it's coming to an end. A lot of them get there as a freshman, oh, I got 3 years, 4 years to play. Next thing you know, they're a senior, and they go, whoa, where did time go? So we try to get them to understand as much as possible. Most of them get it, some don't. And then they're left at the end, well, wow, you know, with empty hopes and dreams. So we try to help them understand and not have those lapses in their decision making.
In terms of their decision making for the future, have you noticed more and more of them coming to your office and saying, Mr. Doughty, how do I, go through college sports administration to become an athletic director like you?
A lot of times, more so than not. I'm the MC of a program with the NCAA called Korean Sports Forum. For the last 9 years since inception, I have been involved with that program, and I see more students want to get into the environment. There's a lot of opportunities in college sports, but then there's a lot of competition also too. So I try to get them to focus on really what they want to do. Everybody says they want to be an athletic director. It's easier said than done. I really try to encourage them to think about, is this really what you want to do? It's like, you see, I sit in a seat, but some of us ADs make it look easy, but it's not that easy. And behind the scenes with the politics and the budget and the managing, the development, the human resources, trying to get people to understand their roles and get them to synergize, is not as easy as it looks. So we try to get young people to find a niche in somewhere in athletics that they're going to be good at. What are they good at? What are they capable of doing? So understanding that all the opportunities, you look at what you're capable of doing, what your history is, what your personality is like, where your fit is going to be, and then we try to work from there if they really are interested. And then you give them assignments. You tell them about websites and pages and joining membership and stuff, and the ones that do it are the ones that you start concentrating. The ones that don't, they were just talking. But there's some who come out, Mr. Doughty, I did this and I did this. Well, let's go. Let's go to the next level. Well, we'll put you here. And those are the people who have done very well. And you got to be mobile in this business. I mean, there might be an opportunity that's in Alaska or Arkansas or someplace. You got to be able to and go. Because if you think the job is just going to knock on the door and come to see you, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to go where that job is to get that experience.
Have you noticed more and more females coming to you to ask you about a career in college sports administration?
Absolutely, especially the ladies are stepping up. There's a lot of initiatives on the NCAA level about women initiatives and women programs. The Pathways program that the NCAA does, our our Associate Commissioner for Compliance, Emerald Fulmore, just went through the Pathways program, which is a brilliant program geared by student development by the NCAA to allow folks to get a holistic look at what it is to run an athletic department and be involved with an athletic department. So I get ladies all the time calling me up, writing me, asking me what to do, where to look, where I'm going to fit, how's it working at HBCU, how's it working at a state level, how's it working at a private level, and different different nuances of the job. I always tell folk the two basic things or three things, the concepts of being an AD, is the compliance. If you don't have compliance like you and I just talked about internally, you're not going to be in business for a long time. Managing your HR, managing the people who take the job. People who take the job and not really understanding what is needed to do that, and that's your job, to get them to synergize and work together. And the development piece now, going out and raising money and awareness. And when you just talk about development, it's just not the money piece. You talk about advancement, it's advancing the whole profile of the university.
So, we recently had on my show 6 women of color athletic directors, and we talked about the importance of diversity and inclusion. And one thing I pointed out was you are now seeing, for example, at Virginia, Mr. Littlepage was replaced by Dr. Carla Williams, another African American. At University of Maryland, Kevin Anderson was replaced. I mean, you are now seeing no longer just diversity, you are seeing a legacy of achievement and quality in athletic directors from that.
Well, I think across the board in athletics and other entities across our country, you're seeing that folks understand that given an opportunity, black individuals, African American as people call them now, which I don't really buy into that, but black folks can do the job and do it well, just as well as anybody else. And given that opportunity, they can be successful. And if people allow them to do their jobs and work with them, not against them, they will be successful. That doesn't mean that every black folk or every white folk or every Chinese folk is going to be, or any other diversity, ethnicity is going to be successful. But given the tools that somebody has went through, their education, they have the experience, why can't they get a shot at doing these jobs? And you're seeing right now that women do a great job. We have our first woman president here at Bowie State University, and she's doing an outstanding job with our tag, Racing to Excellence, and that's just what we're doing each and every second.
What made you go into college sports administration? You were a Hall of Fame basketball player. You could have done a lot of different things. Imagine Europe was calling for you, wasn't it?
Well, you know what? A reason why I went to NYT, I was close to my mother. I grew up in a single-parent household, so my mom was there, and I really felt that basketball was a means to an end. And when I finished my career,
you were just looking as a means to a degree.
And that's just what I used it for. And at the end of that term, I said, I like sports, I like the environment. What can I do to hang around? So I wanted to start my graduate work, and I said to my coach, who was also the athletic director at the time, I want to be involved in this. I like this. It keeps me close to the sport, but I ain't got to run up and down and play basketball and practice and all that other stuff anymore. So he said, well, we'll give you a shot. And I volunteered for a whole year.
Oh, Lord. Just live at home then, I guess?
Yeah, I lived at home. I volunteered for a whole year. I started to go back to school. He saw my enthusiasm. He saw that I wanted to be part of this paradigm. And he gave me a job, my first job in 1982 as an academic advisor. And once you, like James Brown said, open up the door, I'll kick it in, I'm moving in. I just kicked it in, and I kept learning and learning. And I kept surrounding myself. I always tell young people, hitch your wagon up to someone that's moving in the same direction you want to go.
Now on August 10th, you tweeted out what a strong woman your mother was and everything you learned from her. What do you attribute your athletic and academic success to that you've learned from your mother?
Everything, and I hope you don't make me cry because I was thinking about my mom today. She's alive and kicking, but because of her and her tenacity to develop strong, I have 3 brothers, and to develop strong young men, she surrounded herself with strong men that she connected us with, and they were my role models and they were my mentors, and they are to this day. So she was the catalyst. She never got involved with sports. I don't think I can count on my hand the number of games she came to, but she always was supportive of how I did things and why I did things. And because of her interaction with me on that level, it showed that she cared about me and let me grow and be who I have become. So my mom is very, very special lady, and I appreciate the effort that she's made to raise me and then also to support me the way I have.
Are there anything specific in sports administration you realize is not you, but actually you channeling your mother when you're working with a coach, an administrator, one of your players?
Her ability to, I talk about personalities and interpersonal, her ability to see people for what they are and give them the opportunity to be who they are and work with them and always be supportive. My mother is like, back in Hollis, Queens, when folks were coming through trying to make ends meet, the door was always open. When things went bad at NYT and when our budgets were low and our wash machines weren't working, my mother would wash the clothes. My mother would cook for the team. Those kind of things were just very special, and you don't see people doing that a lot. And her heart is really open, and she really wants people to succeed. And that's the same attitude that I take every day when I come into this job. I want to see people succeed, and anything I can do, I will do for my students within the confines of this infrastructure at Bowie State University.
Now Heather, like the athletic director at Pitt, she said her favorite part of the job was she got to take someone's child through 4 very formative years, because let's face it, the average college athlete's a teenager away from home for the first time. She said her favorite part of the job was taking someone else's child and helping them, grow and mature through 4 very formative years. What's your favorite part of being an athletic director?
Well, we might we might lose a game or 2, Jonathan, but we're never defeated. My favorite time, just like Heather, you said from Pitt, is graduation. I sit on that stage and I watch those folks cross that stage, athletes, non-athletes, and everybody is engaged and excited about graduation. Parents who maybe have never come to the campus before, international students whose people have come across from across the pond to see their young.
Do you see a difference in the international athletes?
They're more determined. They don't take things for granted.
Do you think they appreciate more what America has to offer?
A lot more. Especially when it's so hard for them. They can't get loans, they can't get financial aid, so every cent that they get, they make appreciate. They do not fail classes, they go to classes, they're very polite, they're very engaged in what they want to do, and they're constantly learning because this is a new environment for them. You know, sometimes we take for granted that these things are here and in place. Well, in their country, they don't have these amenities that we have, or so-called amenities that we don't think we have, but we do have. And so they take full advantage of any opportunity they can get. Working, it's hard for them to get the proper paperwork to work and what they have to go through to get those things. They work very, very hard. Not to say that our American students don't work hard, but they have a different set of issues to deal with per se. And I see them very engaged and very excited about the opportunity to first be a student in America and then to be a student athlete.
You know, two questions to follow up that, since immigration is always in the headlines today. How does Bowie State go about recruiting international students, and what sort of resources do you have to help them acclimate and, you know, get the most out of their stay here, culminating in that degree after 4 years?
Well, we don't have as many student athletes and international students as we would like because of the need to fully support them and fund them because they get no aid whatsoever. Like I said earlier, we're trying to increase our scholarship funding through a lot of different development criteria. So the ones that we have here, when we are able to fund them fully, they are engaged just like any other student athlete here, and they make the very best of it. And we enjoy having them in our family because they bring another perspective to us that we normally are on a cultural understanding of things that we just sometimes take for granted.
You know, something's working for Bowie State in recruiting and athletes, especially football. Every school's got its own little niche that it plays. JMU, they get a lot of D1 transfers that didn't work out. College of William and Mary, they go to their students that they're recruiting and they say, hey, you come here, you can leave in 5 years with a master's, and then they show them a list of the 148 students who graduated with master's degree from William and Mary. What's Bowie State's got to offer that's so special when recruiting high school athletes?
Well, we try our very best to bring the total family into perspective. We just don't want to recruit primarily. We are recruiting that individual, but we're also recruiting the family. The mother, the father, the sisters, the uncles, everybody. We want them to be involved with this experience. And a college education is an experience for everybody. When I graduated from college, my mom graduated with me because she was right there with me. My brothers graduated with me. I was the first one in my family to get a college degree. I'm the first one in my family to get 2 masters. I'm the first one in my family to pursue a doctorate.
First one in a lot of families to get 2 masters.
Yeah. So they all graduate with me and they all go through this experience with me because I can't do it by myself. So I think that's a good thing that Bowie State does a lot of times, and we show that compassion and understanding for those. We still have first generation college students. 2018, we still have first college generation students. So that's very interesting to me, that statistic. And so we now have to help them and cultivate their understanding of being a college student and what it takes. So that holistic approach to recruitment and that holistic approach to getting them through and retaining them and graduating them is something special that we do here at Bowie State University.
So what about the ones like Jay Billis and the others who claim that, you know, college players are now on a plantation being enslaved and things like that? How do you look at that when you look at what college sports has done for you and so many others?
Well, Jay Billis and them are referring to the Division I people. A lot of people lump all of us in together, and we're so far out of that oatmeal. That oatmeal is a little lumpy over there. Our oatmeal is smooth. So we do a better job in life in the balance of Division II and Division III than the Division I's do. Yeah, the driving force up there is money. The driving force is people like Jay Billis on TV talking about folks all the time. We don't get that kind of pressure down here. We just play the game. We want to win like everybody else. We'll lose a few, but we're never defeated. So it's two different. We're all sports. We're also sports environments, but it's a totally different mindset. I don't understand the plantation thing. That comment is really kind of detrimental to sports and detrimental to the people that play it. And if you really want to know the plantation, if it is a plantation, according to Jay Bills, then they're the owners, because they're the ones who pushing this agenda. It's all about the money. So if we were to take the money out of the situation, I don't think we would have half the problems that we exist now. The competition, the cheating, the money that's used on illicit things, that when you're trying to recruit people. So the money has taken everything to another level that sometimes we don't want to be, and just not college athletics, and life in general too.
So have any parents ever said anything that they have concerns about how their children are going to be treated here on a scholarship here at Bowie State?
Oh, parents always have concerns. You got these helicopter parents want to know everything, and then some parents will just kick them out the door and say, hey, it's your problem now. So you got these both dynamics working both ways. So you adjust with the parent, and you give them what they need to try to give them confidence that your son or daughter is going to be taken care of for the next 4 years, and we're going to do our best, and we're going to work with him or her, and we're going to work with you as well to make sure that they get. When parents come in with concerns, I sit them down and I talk to them about their concern. Sometimes, it's not even sometimes the concerns about what goes on in the campus. They just don't know, and the students don't tell them anything.
No, not teenagers.
No, they're not teenagers. So, I'm grown up now. I don't have to tell you anything. I'm out the door. So now they were wondering what's going on. So when that happens, I'll get them both in the room, and we'll sit down and talk. And I understand to tell the students, you have to keep your parents in the loop so they feel confident of what's going on here at BSU.
And so on graduation day, how many parents come up to you and say, Mr. Doughty, we can't thank you enough for what you've done for our son or daughter for the last 4 years?
Well, it's happening more since, I'm going into my 4th year, so I'm going through that stages of really knowing these students from when they first came in till they finish their career. So I constantly get that. It's unfortunate sometimes that you don't get in front of parents unless there's a problem and they come into the office. But what I try to do is at the game time, find out who those parents are and get to sit and talk with them, so we develop a relationship, and I try to have that camaraderie with them outside of just the traditional we haven't talked to you or we have an issue. So I'm finding that more and more of thanking not just me but the university as a whole for what they did for their son and daughter. They came in timid, or some of them come in with brash attitudes, and they get chopped down a little bit and understand their place as far as moving forward, and understanding how they have to operate also too. So it's a lot of, you like I said, we all are different boxes, we're all in the same store, but you have to look at it, each individual box, and see what's best for the store, and we try to treat them as such.
So you're just finishing up your 4th year here. What's the next 4 years hold for Clyde Doughty here at Bowie State University?
Right here at Bowie State, we're going to keep growing this wonderful Bulldog Nation athletics. We're going to go out and raise money. We're going to raise awareness. We're not going to be the best kept secret in Prince George's County.
Not after beating Ivy League schools in bowl games.
That's right, absolutely. We're going to be the gem of Prince George's County and this DMV area. So I'm very excited about working with Dr. Bro and my fellow cabinet members on increasing the awareness from student success, academic excellence, and the viability of this campus.
Mr. Doughty, thank you for your time, sir. We're all looking forward to that.
Thank you, Jonathan.
This is Jonathan Yates with the Culture of Sports. Thank you for joining us at Bowie State University today.